birthed out of my nationally syndicated segment that highlights multicultural creators, influencers, and entrepreneurs to get us in front of people who don't look like us to access our ideas and resources and get funding and so on and so forth. So I love what you're doing outside of football with your foundation. And I'd like to kind of start there with that.
Yeah, I started my foundation, a few years back. I think it started with just kind of my upbringing as a kid growing up in Richmond, Virginia. The opportunities that I had, how I got them, where I wanted to go in life, and just kind of how it all unfolded was just a kid growing up, loved playing sports, often busy outside doing team sports, traveling basketball. And some of those opportunities were, provided with my family, coming together, doing what they had to do to, provide me with that opportunity. And then others was coming across paths with other individuals who just had, the kindness in their heart to bless me with the opportunity, whether that was AAU coach who would pick me up, give me rides to practice when we had tournaments, providing the funding for me to go and just be a part of the team because he wanted me to be a part of the team and he saw the relationships that I had with other players on the team. So situations like that, I just think, continuously showed up in my life as a kid from elementary school on and through until high school and so farther on that I told myself once I got the opportunity, I wanted to utilize the resources that I have to go back to, my community that I lived in as a kid, to communities that I lived in during my time playing, and just kind of give back, and be a resource to kids who were just kids wanting to be kids, but eventually became adults or teenagers who had different green dreams and aspirations and needed a little help just trying to reach those things. So that's what the Anthony Harris Foundation is all about. And that's what we continue to try to strive to do and continue to try to build up in the
That's great.
communities.
So, some of the key initiatives there are food security, distribution, education, and enrichment. So, I want to talk about food security for a moment because you would think in 2023 that we wouldn't have this conversation about food security, especially in America. So, tell me a little bit of why you feel like that's important and why that we need to kind of stress the importance of making sure people have access to food and why it shouldn't be a conversation.
Well, one, I mean, food's a necessity. Food and water, two main things we need. And in today's climate, things are tough, with the economy. It's always, been tough in certain situations, whether it's single family homes, whether it's homes that have two parents in the homes and people go through hardships. So, whether people become ill and not able to no longer work, whether they're in transition from jobs, there are lapses in different households that could be supplemented. So during times specifically right now, the holidays coming up, and it's one of those things that Thanksgiving being around the corner, a number of people, and often in a lot of different households, it's a time of families coming together, being thankful for things that they've been blessed with over the years, being thankful for each other's presence still being there, and sometimes that can be difficult. So through partnerships, through collective aid, just being a resource to help families during that time where it can really highlight the lack of resources sometimes because all around the world there are numerous families celebrating that. There are kids talking about it in school, in the classrooms. There are kids that are outside in their neighborhoods playing with other kids, and they're talking about Thanksgiving meals and where they're eating at, or there may be a child who may not be able to experience that. So I think that's why it's important too, as well, just from the psychological and the mental standpoint of being able to have everybody feel included or bridge them over during that kind of struggle. But just in general, it's important to be able to have that just as a necessity
Yeah,
in
and
life.
nobody should be going to bed hungry, right? Especially a kid. So
Hmm.
I commend you for the work that you're doing in that space. And I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about another, key thing that I see going on in communities of color, even with the Black maternal health crisis. I read you're a first-time dad. Congratulations, you're a girl dad.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
I
and I heard
appreciate
in
that.
one of your other interviews that you mentioned using a doula, and we don't have to get into a whole conversation about that because I'd love for you to come on another platform that I've built. But I think it was important and it was necessary to kind of hear that because again, bringing these conversations mainstream about like the importance of Black maternal health and what you're doing and with your foundation is important. So tell me a little bit about that experience and what that was like for your family incorporating a doula.
Yeah. So for me, it was a resource that kind of came, from right underneath where I kind of grew up and just my inner circle of friends. I have a close childhood friend whose wife is actually a doula as well. So that's kind of how it came up. I mean, we've been close friends for years, dating back since middle school. He has, well, they have 4 children, and so as a first-time parent, um, you're not sure what to expect. There's a number of different things, whether that's through books, through social media, whether that's learning from your parents if they're still around. A ton of information, some of which you know, some of which you don't know, and you don't know what you don't know. So we just wanted to try to learn as much about the process as possible and just try to make sure we could try to put ourselves in the best situation to have a healthy birth, for both my child and my fiance. And we felt that that was important. So um, having that resource there was great. I feel like it helped with the pregnancy in terms of preparation, in terms of kind of what to expect, to be able to manage the emotional side, and for me to be able to be a support system in the best way I could, because I'm not laboring, but to be able to understand more of what's going on and try to know when I could be more vocal, or when I could just be silent in a moment, and when it might be appreciated or when it not might be appreciated. I thought that that was a big piece in terms of just
Yeah,
communication.
that's great. And I'm so happy to hear you say that because I think that there's this misconception, especially in our community, about the role of fathers, Black fathers specifically in that whole process. And not also realizing that, doulas and midwives were a big part of our culture, like, even ancestrally, right? So, this
Hmm.
is what our healthcare system looked like as the Black community, for hundreds and hundreds of years. And then it kind of got whitewashed and turned into a different medical opportunity for the whole obstetrics movement to come in and kind of reshape how we were birthing babies. So I love to hear that you as a family have taken that initiative and have kind of shifted the narrative or helped shifting that misconception of like those roles and like how we can kind of tap into that as a resource because I think it's super key, super important. So happy to hear that you're doing that.
Hmm.
And then just kind of getting back to the, the football conversation. So obviously you played in the NFL, veteran defensive back. You took a break from football. Why did you decide to do that? And how did that play into your preparation moving into what's next for you?
Yeah, for me, I just thought it was, very important just to be present in that moment. Just from a father figure standpoint, from a support system standpoint, often with my career, or guys in general, a lot of the sacrifice for some of the women are, it's just being alone, whether that's we're at work practicing, whether we're on the road for the games. There's a lot of, factors that go into that. And sometimes being away from family, whether that's as a player or as a spouse, it can feel kind of isolated. So not only for my child, knowledge later down the line, but also for my partner's knowledge, just to be able to say, this is a moment where I want to sacrifice uh, a bit of my time to the game, something that I love, for another part of me that I also do love. I felt like that was a strong display And that was something that would speak volumes later on down the line, and not only for her but for myself as well. So when I made that decision, it was kind of one of those things that I've always thought about before actually thinking about having a child. And it was kind of something that I said, I don't want to have to choose. I'd like to be able to, um, do both. But it came down to that, and ultimately, I decided that that was, more important at the time, and that as far as my purpose, that if it's for me, it'll be there, after this day. So, or after this time spent. So, it was something that I definitely continue to enjoy. During that time, I still managed, working out. It was, doing what I could during the day before the pregnancy, still going to work out, coming back, just trying to be supportive as we had the birth. And days after that, it was, isolate, kind of just take on that partner and parenting role. And football was kind of put down for a couple of days. And then shortly after that, it was, okay, football also is an outlet for me, much as it was as a child. And so I continued to get back to that routine and just tried to balance that as best as possible.
Yeah, and I admire that because it's so sacrificial, right? Most of the times we're not willing to like put down our dream or put down our livelihood to really focus on our families, even though that's the most important thing. So there seems like there's a lot of trust and there's a lot of faith behind that decision, and that you believing that what's for you will be for you. So I commend you because most people don't have I mean, I did it for many, many years, like with my kids when they were little, but most people don't have the tenacity, right, to set what they want to do aside for the sake of their family.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be the first to say that that hasn't always come
Mm.
easy, to do that. Uh, but life tends to teach us, how to evolve, and just how to continue to grow. So for me, it was just kind of like, I had been through enough where, I was able to do that. And I realized that there will be a life after football, and that I still have the ability to, to go out on the football field and perform at a high level, physically and mentally. I'm just as dedicated. Um, and I didn't think, taking away, taking that moment in time to appreciate that would diminish my athletic ability or diminish my thought process when it comes to my dedication and work ethic forward. So for me, it was just, you know, I feel like I have the ability, and I could put it down and then, stay in touch with it enough and get through this and be able to go out and perform at a high level, and be a contributor and a productive player, teammate, and father and fiance all in the same
That's
time.
great. So you brought up a great point about life after football. So what does life after football look like for you?
Um, I mean, for me, I envision it as in, not being too much off the path of kind of where I am now. Outside of seeing myself as a football player, as a entertainer or somewhat educator in that space, I kind of see myself continuing to doing something in that space. In terms of just continuing to give back, I've been working on some stuff in terms of real estate. I've been working on some stuff in terms of like venture capital, working with different companies, looking at tech companies, products. So I've been exposing myself to a number of different markets, and just being a student of them all, whether I participate in them or not. So that's what I've been, filling my time with, when I'm not training for football, when I'm not spending time with my family, when I'm not, hanging out with friends, playing video games, and doing some of the stuff that I do to try to, relax. I'm just continuing to learn. So after football, I see myself, operating in the real estate space, being a businessman who operates in a number of different markets. And at the same time, being a person who can, educate others who want to be educated, who can inspire others to be different, to go after their dreams, to be able to do positive things in one lane and then transition to another, and grow in that space and do excellent things in that space just as well.
So, anything related to fashion you see yourself doing?
Possibly, possibly. I started an apparel line a few years ago, the Ann Harris Apparel, which was a spinoff from a nickname given to me in college. I went to UVA, where we call ourselves the Who's. Um, I kind of got the name Who's That Dude just off of going out on Saturdays, performing well, and being a guy that pops up and showed up, but people hadn't yet knew who I was. So I kind of carried that, and I kind of carried that chip of, I'll be a person who shows you who I am over time, as well as a person who has an impact in a way that's positive, and that you have to ask yourself, if you don't know who is this person. So that's something that I kind of been orchestrating and dealing with a little bit over the past few years. But when it comes to fashion, it's something that I appreciate. I enjoy looking good. Whether that's coming with some of my urban outfits and urban designs, or whether that's changing things up and coming a little bit more suited. A three-piece suit, I appreciate doing that at times as well too. So I like the creativity that you can express in fashion. So that's something that I appreciate, along with art, in terms of working in that space. I'm not exactly sure what that may look like, but it's something that I definitely appreciate.
That's great. So, who would you say Anthony Harris is outside of the father and the NFL player and all the titles that you have?
I would say Anthony Harris is he's a God fearing man. Um, he's a man of who wants to interject just positivity, uh, who wants to be someone who uplifts, um, who knows he's not perfect, but strives to be the best that he can be. He's a person who knows who he is, in a sense of not wanting to be anybody else. Um, he's a person who just wants to do positive things and leave a positive impact and legacy um, in life. And he only wishes that other individuals can um, accomplish some of the things that they want to accomplish, be open to um, accomplishing and dreaming bigger than kind of what they could imagine. Not really selling yourself short, but really just pushing the limit to you not only reaching your full potential, but really just going beyond what you think you could have accomplished or
Mm.
become.
Did you always believe that you were going to play in the NFL one day?
I said it when I was a kid, um, and it was more from a standpoint of, this is what I want to do. Um, you know, in school they do those, where do you see yourself in 10 years? And I imagine I must have been 14 or something, or who knows, like at that age where you think 21 is a crazy adult, and a ton of life learned experience. But I wrote down that, played a number of years in the NFL, um, married, kids. I didn't put a number. Um, and that was just kind of it. And I just kind of went through the life of taking it one step at a time. Really just saying, I'm in little league. I just want to play high school football and I want to be good at it one day. And then to obtaining that, and like, wow, like, okay, I've done it. Now I want to go to college. And since I was a kid and I wanted to go to high school, and I just worked at it and I looked up and I made it, and I accomplished it, that it must be possible for me to do it again and be able to replicate that. So that's just what I continued to do. And then it did become a point where there was a real realization of, I can actually accomplish, um, the goal of, playing in the NFL.
Yeah, and it seems like you already had like this little staple and blueprint that you might have not realized that you had at the time. I don't think a lot of people realize the power of writing stuff down and putting it on a piece of paper, right? And that God will move you and orchestrate your steps, right, in order to get you to that determined goal, right? So I love that you
Hmm.
mentioned that because there's power in that, being able to write the vision and making it plain. And maybe you don't understand at the time the power of what you're
Hmm.
doing, but you're taking a step of faith by doing that.
Yeah, yeah. I think the one thing that probably is like a something that you don't consciously realize when you write it down is that you're kind of writing down what your truth is at the moment. That thought is it's true to you. And when you write it down, and for you to believe in it, there's already some level of conviction. Um, and one thing that I think stuck with me that I heard as a kid growing up in Richmond. Music is also a passion of mine, and Trey Songz, he had a song. I forget the name of it, but he kind of had like a interlude, and he said, "If you can conceive it in your mind, then you can achieve it in the physical." And it just stuck with me, and it's just like if I can think of it, then I can bring it to life. And so I think during those times, often looking back now, I may not have realized quite what I was doing, but I just envisioned myself, the story, and I just believed it. I didn't write too far down there and try to think about the ending. I just kind of took it, as if you write a book, just one page at a
Hmm.
time. And I just thought of, the glory of what it would be like at the end, even though, the sacrifice or the running or going to the field by myself. I just thought that this is a story that will be a great story that people don't know about. And I'm writing it right now. And that was kind of my mindset. I would just look up and think like the stadium's empty, but I'm putting in the work now so, it can show up when the stadium's filled. And I think in those moments, I kind of surprised myself, in the sense of like, okay, everything that I worked at is kind of unfolded. And from that point, I just continued to gain even more faith in what I was doing and who was doing it.
Yeah, and you're almost like you become the storybook for the season of life that somebody else might be in, right? Who needs to see that and see that inspiration. So I like that a
Hmm.
lot. So in terms of like, what are you looking most forward to in the next coming year?
Um, I think honestly, I've just been learning to kind of enjoy the
Mm-hmm.
moment. Uh, and I think, kind of speaking to what you just mentioned is, our story kind of becomes, can come, kind of can become someone else's. I think in that same sense, at times there are other stories, that I see, that I kind of pull
Mm-hmm.
from. Um, and so right now, it's not necessarily me trying to look too far in the future. It's like right now, I'm just like, I just want to enjoy, the moment of now, continue to enjoy working out, continue and enjoy, the love I get from football, the enjoyment I get from getting up every day and working at it, to the feeling of being patient for the opportunity to come to play again. Uh, the feeling of now just like being a new father, experiencing the moments with my daughter, enjoying life, and kind of learning and building more with my family, other individuals, continue to inspire in the moment now. And that I just don't want to take that for granted, I think. And I think that might be a lesson that I've learned from football as well. Um, and something that I've learned from actually taking the time off now, it's like I can take time away from it and then still enjoy it, and it be a reminder of how good it feels to do those things. But in that same breath, I understand that there's something now that brings me joy. So, I will continue to pursue my gift that God's given me with playing football until I feel that I've used it
Mm-hmm.
all. I've used all of my gift of, playing football. And right now, it's not up to me if I do it again. But um, if that is the case, I'll be fine because I know that decision is not up to
Right.
me.
Yeah.
So I think that's what I'm really enjoying. And I think if I were to get another opportunity, that would be the beauty in it. Is just enjoying it even more than what I thought I
Mhm.
had. And that's what the birth of my daughter has showed me, like another level of love. And I know there's going to be great things post career, but I want to just to continue to enjoy now because I know where I am now was once where I wanted to be.
Sure.
So I'm just continuing to the long answer. I'm just continuing to appreciate now, but I mean, it's only gotten better so far. So I can only imagine what the future is going to hold. Uh, and I know during that time it won't be all roses. There'll be a little bit of adversity as we continue to receive more blessings. But that's the beauty in the
Yeah.
story, and so I just enjoy, telling it, and hopefully there's another individual who will listen to this, or read it, just in case it's turned into an article or something, and who can be inspired because I was once a kid in a middle school auditorium listening to a now friend um, who played in the NFL, Billy McMullen, who actually went to UVA, who at the time I didn't know, share his story. And he said, out of everybody's in here, I know that there's one kid who's believing and who has conviction of everything that I'm saying, and that they'll do great things. And then at that moment, I told myself, he doesn't know, but I'm going to be that kid. And I made a decision that I was going to work to be that kid and I wasn't just going to say it. So I guess the exciting part of the future is to look back over time and kind of see the journey of how far we've come, as well as the people around us, and just appreciate the
That's
journey.
great. So, how would Anthony Harris define success?
I think that has been a question that I continuously ask myself, um, and that I think continuously changes a little bit or evolves. And for me, I just define success as just trying to reach your full potential. I truly believe that everybody's has different gifts, different abilities, and I think success is just being able to understand and grow and learn, what your gift is, and also how to just utilize your gift. Um, and that's not success to me isn't amount of money. Um, it is an amount of fame. I think success is just fulfilling, understanding your purpose and just
Mhm.
fulfilling it. That's kind of just how I
I think
view it.
that's great advice, right? And great insight. And I think a lot of people are going to learn a lot of great things from this interview and this conversation. And we appreciate you being here on Power Move today and sharing your story and sharing inspiration and sharing that, what you want to happen can actually happen, right? Because you obviously have
Hmm.
had a great career. You're living out your dreams. You're, a father. You're getting all the things that you've trusted God for. So it's good to see that, it's great to see that all those things can come into fruition when you apply the right things to your life. So good for you. And thank you for being here today.
Thank you. I appreciate y'all for having me. Great platform, great conversation. Just all positive
Thank
things.
you. And hopefully you'll come back and you'll update us on what's going on with the foundation and all the other wonderful things that you're doing with, your platform. So thank you for this. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a blessed one.